Okay, welcome back. So in this video what we're going to be talking about is completing the square to help us sketch circles. So we're going to use this as a tool to sort of change around our equation of our circle to sort of make it a little bit easier for us to sketch. But before we dive in, we just need to understand a couple of things first off, right? And that one thing that we need to understand is the general form of the circle. Now, quite often when you're given questions where you need to complete the square, you're given your equation of a circle in general form. And that's when all terms are on the left-hand side of the equation, right? And the right-hand side is equal to 0. So much like this equation here, we have x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 6y minus 3 equals 0. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the steps and I'm going to tell you afterwards the aim as to why we're trying to complete the square. Right, just to help us out. So the idea for today's video, and these are the steps that we're going to use, right, is our first step to begin completing the squares. We're going to try and group the x's together, we're going to try and group the y's together, right? So for example, in this particular equation up here, we'd put the x squared with the 4x and the y squared with the minus 6y, okay? So we're just grouping them together so we have x's with x's and y's with y's. After that, what we want to do is we want to move any constants that we have, and just remember a constant is anything that doesn't have a variable attached. For example, in this equation, this minus 3, okay, and we're going to move that to the right-hand side. So we're not going to have it equal to 0 anymore, okay? Then we're going to complete the square for the x term. Now, what completing the square means is that we're trying to end up with a perfect square, okay? So something that is in the form of a plus b all squared. That's what we mean by completing a square, just as a bit of a refresher. So we're going to do that for the x, and then we're going to do the exact same thing for the y. So in these sorts of questions, what you're going to do is you're going to actually end up completing the square twice, which can be a little bit confusing, but we're going to break it down step by step to help you out. After all of that, you're going to simplify where you need, okay? So, why are we doing this? Well, we're trying to take something that's given to us in general form like this here, and we're trying to rearrange it so we can put it in the form of, it's often called point center form, but it looks like x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared equal to r squared. Okay? Now this is called point center form, so we're going to take it from general form and put it into point center form because this is much easier for us to translate and move around on our x and y axis, which is what you've done last lesson. Okay? So just remember, if it's in the x bracket, it moves to the left and the right. If it's in the y bracket, it moves up and down. Okay, so this in here, this equation has a center of, just as a refresher, of hk, so the x and the y, right? And has a radius, which is r, okay, radius equal to r. So just be careful, okay, that's not going to be equal to r squared, okay? That's a common mistake that I see people making. That would be a moment where I would tell you to heed my words just to make sure that you don't avoid that mistake. And the other heed my words moment that I would tell you about would be to make sure that you're doing the opposites for the center, the opposites of what's ever in the bracket. So if they're negative, you put a positive in. If they're positive, you put a negative in. So just be careful with that as we go through it today. Okay, so let's dive into our first example. So for our first example, what we're going to be talking about is this question here. Complete the square to determine the center and the radius of the circle given by this equation here, which is x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, so our first step, if you remember back, was to group the x's together and the y's together. So x's with x's and y's with y's, right? And you'll notice that while there are x's, there's only one y squared, there's no other y. So we're going to rearrange this equation. What we're going to rearrange it to be is x squared, and just remember that negative is attached to that 8. Okay, that minus 8x. So x squared minus 8x plus y squared, and there's no y to group it with, and plus 7 is now equal to 0. Okay, so we've done step 1, we've grouped everything together. Okay, so next step what we're going to do is we're going to move the constant term, okay, the constant, anything without an x or a y, to the right-hand side of the equation. Okay, so that means we're going to minus 7 from both sides. Be careful with your negatives. So now we have x squared minus 8x plus y squared is now equal to minus 7. Okay, so here's what we have. We've done the first two steps. Okay, and this is sort of where we want to be ending up with before we start doing any completing the squares. Don't try and jump in and complete the squares earlier on because it can lead to you having a little bit of a hard time and making it easier for you to make mistakes. Okay, so Our third step, remember our third step was to complete the square on the x's. Now, what I'm going to do in this video today, because we've completed the square a few times, is I'm going to show you the full process with this first example, but I'm going to teach you how you can trim the process down by recognizing some patterns, just to help you out a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to rewrite this equation, and I encourage you at the moment, if you actually want to pause this video here and go on a little bit further and see if you can complete the square yourself just for the x terms, okay? But we're going to go through and complete the square for the x right now. So you'll notice I'm going to leave a little bit of a space here, okay? And you'll see y in a moment, which is equal to -7, okay? So what we want to do is we want to create a perfect square here. Now remember, in all of the other videos where we've talked about completing a square, to create a perfect square we need to add on, okay, half of the coefficient of x, okay, squared, which is 4 squared. Does that make sense? So we add on half of the coefficient of x squared, so plus 4 squared, right? Now because we've added this on the left-hand side, okay, note that this underlined part here is going to become a perfect square, and I'll show you that in a moment. But because we've added this 4 squared to one side, what we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we must also add on 4 squared to the right-hand side, okay? So let me just move this up so you can see what we're doing. Alright, so what we're going to do now, right? If we're completing the square, remember, we're going to have x inside of some brackets, all squared, alright? We need to decide what comes out of this expression here into these brackets, right? Now it'll always be the same sign as your original x, so minus, right? And whatever is in these brackets squared, you put in. So x minus 4, all squared. Now we don't have to really worry about this y yet. We haven't really touched it. So this is like plus y squared, okay? It doesn't disappear, it has to stay there, okay? But we haven't really done anything with it yet, okay? So this is equal to -7, okay? Now plus 4 squared is actually plus 16. So let's just do a little bit of tidying up here. And the reason why we're going to jump straight to tidying up is because there's no terms that we actually need to tidy up here. There's no terms for the y squared that we actually need to complete the square for. So just follow me along. So x minus 4 all squared plus y all squared is equal to -7 plus 16 is 9. Now, believe it or not, we actually have this in center radius form, okay? So we're actually able to start graphing this circle now. The reason why is, what happens with this is, because we only have a number inside of the x bracket, the bracket with the x, it's only going to shift horizontally, okay? And in fact, because it's a negative, it's actually going to shift to the right 4 units, okay? So remember, our whole aim was to get it looking like x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared equal to r squared. And we have it looking pretty similar to that. The reason why we have y minus k all squared is we can rewrite y squared as the same as y plus 0 all squared. Okay, so we're not actually shifting it up and down, we're just shifting it left and right. Okay, so if we're going to determine the center and the radius, right, this is going to be, the center is, well, the x coordinate is going to be 4 and the y coordinate is going to be 0. So let me just move this up a little bit, right? Just remember, whatever's in these brackets, we do the opposite. So the center, okay, put it there, 4 sign, is at opposite of -4, which is positive 4, right? And the opposite of 0 is 0, okay? So the center is at 4, 0, and the radius, remember the radius is equal to a number squared. So you need to be careful with this. It's not going to be equal to 9, which is a common mistake that I see, okay? You need to rewrite this with a square. So one way of seeing that is that the radius is equal to 3 squared, which is going to be equal to 9. Or you can just take the square root of your right-hand side just to sort of figure it out, right? So the square root of 9 we know is equal to 3. So we've done what the question has asked us. The center is at 4, 0, and the radius is equal to 3. Okay? So now why don't we have a little bit of a go at actually graphing this? Okay? So just give me a moment to draw up a set of x and y axes. Okay, so we have found the center, which is 4, 0, which means it only moves to the right. Okay, so it'll be over here at x equals 4. Okay, it doesn't go up or down, so it only moves horizontally. And we have a radius of 3. Now, because we're here at 4, it means it's not actually going to come across and touch the y-axis. It's just going to fall short. So if we go 3 less than 4, it's going to cut over here at 1, isn't it? And then if we go 3 more than 4, because remember a circle is equidistant from the center on all sides, okay, it's actually going to come across here, okay, and it's going to cut at 7 on the x-axis. So when we draw our graph out, okay, right, and I advise getting a compass for this, it will make your life a little bit easier, right? When we draw your circle out, remember this is just a sketch, okay, we are trying to be neat. This is what it looks like. There's no y-intercepts, it only intercepts the x-axis twice with the center at 4, 0, okay? Alright, so let's go on and jump into some other examples so you can see where we're going to go with this. Okay, so for our second example here, the equation x squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 8y equals 0, what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square to find the center and the radius, but we're also going to take this a little bit further and we're going to find the x and y intercepts and then use that to sketch this graph. Now this might be the last example for this video, but I'll do a couple more in a second video just to follow up with some harder things to sort of help you understand everything that we're going for. Okay, but I just don't want this one to get too long. Okay, so here's where I'm going to shorten my method for completing the square. Okay, so first things first. Our first step was to group the x's together and to group the y's together. So I'm going to rewrite the x squared with the minus 6x. So x squared minus 6x, and we're going to rewrite the y squared with the plus 8y. So plus y squared plus 8y is now equal to 0. Okay, now the second step tells us to move the constants to the other side, but we don't have any constants that we have to worry about, so that step is done for us. Okay, so now what we're going to do, you'll notice that we have 2 lots of the x's and 2 lots of the y's, so we're going to have to complete the square twice here. Like I said, that can take a while if we are doing it the way that I showed you in the last method, which is just more so for understanding, but what we're going to do this time is we're just going to shorten everything down to give you a bit of a trick. Okay, so now let's just say I want to complete the square for the x. We know that I'm going to end up with something looking like x inside of the brackets all squared. Okay, now remember what goes in the brackets is the same as the sign on the x coefficient, so it's a minus, and half, okay, half of the coefficient, okay, of the term attached to the x, so x minus 3. Now we need to be careful here, so I'm just going to rewrite this equal sign here. So we've got 0 on the other side, and we're going to end up with plus y squared plus 8y. So I should have written this out first, but just bear with me. So because we've written sign in here and we've put the 3 in here, what we're going to do is we're technically adding on 3 squared to the left-hand side. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. Okay? So we're basically adding on whatever is in this bracket here squared to the right-hand side. Just to cut out those steps of writing it there and then trimming it all down, just make things a little bit easier, okay? Right, so let's go and we're going to do the same thing for the y's now. So we're going to have x minus 3 all squared, we've completed the square for that, plus, now we're going to end up with y inside of a bracket, okay, all squared is equal to 0, and 3 squared is 9, so I can actually just scribble that out and just write 9 there for us for the moment, okay? So remember, what's going to go in the bracket is the same sign, so plus, okay, and then half of the coefficient of y now, because we're completing the square for y, and half of 8 is 4, right? Now, because we've put y plus 4 all squared in here, right, we're actually adding on this here, this term here, squared to the other side, so plus 4 all squared, okay? So now, let's just do a little bit of simplifying. That's the completing the square done. We've just trimmed everything down. We now have x minus 3 all squared plus y plus 4 all squared is equal to 9 plus 4 squared is 9 plus 16, and 9 plus 16 is now 25. Okay, so let's identify the center and the radius of this particular circle. Okay, the center, okay, so therefore the center, right, is equal to the opposite of the numbers in these brackets. So the opposite of minus 3 is positive 3, and the opposite of positive 4 is minus 4. So the center is at 3 and minus 4, and the radius, or r, is equal to the square root of 25, okay? So r is equal to the square root of 25 is just 5. Okay, so that's the distance of the radius from the center to the outside of the circle. Okay, now I said I wanted to take this a little bit further, okay, to try and understand, or to try and find the x and y intercepts. Now, if we just go over this a little bit. Remember to find our x-intercepts, right? So we'll start with the y. To find our y-intercepts, our y-ints, we let x equal 0. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use this equation that we've just found, okay, this one here, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to let x equal 0 to find the y-intercept and solve a quadratic equation, and we're going to do the same for the y. So if we let x equal 0, in this equation here, we now have minus 3, because x becomes 0, we just replace the x with 0, minus 3 all squared, because 0 minus 3 is minus 3, plus y plus 4 all squared equal to 25. Well, minus 3 all squared is positive 9, so y plus 4 squared is equal to 25. So we're going to minus 9 from both sides. We now have y plus 4 all squared is equal to 25 minus 9 is actually 16. Okay. Now, we want to get rid of the squared here to unlock the inside of the brackets, okay? So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I'll have y plus 4 when I take the square root of that side. Okay, now remember, when we take the square root of both sides, we must have a plus or minus, because there's two possible solutions that we can have. Okay, and the square root of 16, when you think about the square root of 16, square root of 16, that's actually just equal to 4. Okay, so the square root of 16 is equal to 4, therefore we have plus or minus 4. Right, minus 4 from both sides, we end up with y is equal to 4 plus or minus 4. So our y-intercepts, okay, our y-ints are equal to, well, 4 minus 4 is 0, and 4 plus 4 is 8. So there are two y-intercepts that we have. Okay, so let me just move that up so you can see what we're doing. Alright, now I'm going to draw a line down the middle of the page, and now we're going to find our x-intercepts. And if you refresh yourself to find our x-intercepts, okay, our x-intercepts, we let y equal 0. So now, I'll just bring this down a little moment, okay, that means we're going to let this y in this bracket equal 0. So we're just going to have a plus 4 all squared. So we're going to be left with x minus 3 all squared plus 4 squared equal to 25. Okay, so x minus 3, let's just do a little bit of tidying up. X minus 3 all squared plus 4 squared, well, 4 squared is 16, so that's plus 16 is equal to 25. Now, if we keep going, okay, minusing 16 from both sides, we end up with x minus 3 all squared is equal to 25 minus 16 is 9. Okay, now we've got to unlock the insides of these brackets, so we're going to square root both sides. So we have x minus 3 is equal to, if we're square rooting both sides, okay, we're taking the square root of 9, which is equal to 3. Okay, remember we must have a plus or minus because we've square rooted. So plus or minus 3. So now we have x is equal to 3 plus or minus 3. Now, let's just simplify this a little bit. Our x-intercepts, okay, 3 minus 3 is equal to 0, and 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. So they are our x-intercepts for our circle. Okay, so let's get on to having a bit of a crack at graphing this, and we'll do that on the next page. Okay, so for our circle, it's going to have a centre of 3 and minus 4. Okay, so if we're to put this on a graph, we're going to go across 3 and down 4. So we're here at the centre of 3 minus 4. Okay, we also know that it's going to cross the y-axis at 0. And I just want to fix up a mistake that I made earlier. When I was here in this step, what I brought the 4 across, right? That should have been the opposite. I should have minus 4 from both sides. So just be careful with your negatives. So that should have been y is equal to minus 4 plus or minus 4. So minus 4 is actually equal to minus 8, and then minus 4 plus 4 is still equal to 0. So our 0 still works out here in this particular case. Okay, so let me just bring that up so you can see what we've done. Okay, I've added a negative here. Okay, so just when I brought the 4 across to the other side, I've minus 4 from both sides. So minus 4 is minus 8, and minus 4 plus 4 is equal to 0. So our 0 is still going to stand. So just keep that in mind. So it cuts on our y-axis at 0 and at minus 8. Okay, down there. Okay, and we'll label all of these soon. So we're just getting a bit of a idea of the scale of the sketch. And our x-intercepts is going to cut at 0, okay, which we've already got. Okay, and the other cut was at 6. Okay. Now, like I said, this is much easier to do with a compass and some graph paper, okay, but you're not always going to have that, so you can get a bit of an idea of just roughly measuring out a axis and then sketching your circle in. Okay, so to sketch your circle in, I'm going to label it afterwards because I know what my labels are, we've figured them out. I'm just trying to draw a rough sketch. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece of our circle. So it's over here at 0, cuts here at 6, and down here at -8. And that is a sketch of our circle, which is x minus 3 all squared plus y plus 4 all squared equal to 25. Okay, so that is a sketch of our circle. So I hope that helps. I do apologise for making the mistake. Okay, but we can use that to do everything that we need to now. So I'm going to do another video with some slightly harder examples. So just stay tuned for that. Thank you.